Angry Faithful. This is just to let you know there's more than one way that you can check in on the different types of degree of fuckery we get into. You can go to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Podbean, or just watch us on YouTube or Rumble. Don't forget to like, share, and comment where you can, or just leave 5 stars on Apple Podcast. We thrive on things like absolution from our audience, but see if we can get this steamrolled into something big. We're depending on you. Thank you for watching. Now let us begin. Whatever.
Welcome to What the Hell, Angry Faithful. Today we got Johnny's dad. I don't know his first name. I just know him as
John.
Mr. Skelton. John Skelton.
Yeah,
okay.
He's a junior. I'm a third.
Okay.
Yeah. So say hi, everybody.
Hi, everybody.
Anyways, basically we wanted to get our fathers on. I had my dad on a couple of weeks ago. We're having your dad on and just talking about, father stuff that we've complicated over our years, the difference on, raising kids from his past to your past, to you right now.
Yeah.
How different it is, and just sharing stories.
Well, vastly different. You could beat your kids back then.
Yeah.
Can't so much now.
Hopefully we don't do what's really sad is halfway through me and my dad's episode, because we have a legitimate black sheep. To the point to where she's 20 minutes into the show, we went for a good 15-20 minutes of just bad mouthing my sister. She is really legitimate crazy that she gets checks.
Now we have a self-admitted black sheep, but yeah, we're not bashing her.
No.
At all.
No, she was the one conformist we had was his sister Megan, and now she's an army wife, and looks in the mirror, sighs, and realizes that she's turned into me.
That is all kinds of funny.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, so I have those sparkling moments of clarity, like when I had the boys down there in Houston last week, and they're all talking over each other in the living room, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm like, and I throw out the knife hand. That's my addition to the whole parenting thing, right? Mm-hmm. I throw out the knife hand, and I'm like, silence! Just sitting there. I'm issuing like blanket statements, right? And the two of the boys will sit there and go, but we were, so I go, I don't care. I'm talking to everybody in here so I know I got the right one. And I'm sitting there, and as soon as I got done talking, I'm walking back down the hallway, and I'm like, fuck, I'm turning into my dad. Jesus Christ.
No, what's really sad is I had that I turned to my dad moment when I was really, really young. I had just grown mustache. I was in Kuwait, Bahrain. And I took a picture of me with sunglasses on at the Tree of Life.
Yeah.
Anyways, I was going through the photos like a year after, and I was like, that's funny. That's the Tree of Life. When did my dad get there? and I was like, I mean, my dad didn't go to Bahrain. I went to Bahrain. That was me. Oh my God! And I shaved the mustache right off the bat. For the longest time, I didn't have a goatee, or I didn't have any facial hair because of that.
And so, okay, so, all right. One of the best compliments my dad has ever given me was the day he called me an asshole. Right?
Okay.
Okay, so when I was growing up, we had, there was 3 of us. There was my granddad, Skelton. His name is John the third, right? So he's like, I guess we had gotten into it over, it was on a Boy Scout camping trip.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I didn't like the way that you were handling something discipline-wise. Of course, so I was the one being disciplined. Who would have known? But he was like, you think I'm an asshole? You look that word up in the dictionary, and there was a picture of your granddad in the margin. It'll say, see him, right? Mm-hmm. Because granddad was a truck driver. And he had a way he liked to handle things, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then so he's calling my granddad an asshole, right? But then he sits there and goes, "And when I joined the Navy, I turned it into an art form," right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, okay, and it didn't dawn on me like that moment. I don't know, for whatever reason, that conversation stuck in my head.
Okay.
And Dad got to witness me chewing out a private one day. And he goes, "You're an asshole." And I was like, "Aw." I was like, "That's because I've perfected it into a science."
Yeah, see, like growing up, my dad, I mean, like I said, he was a truck driver. He was also, when he wasn't, he also had another type of career one time in between truck driving jobs, working in oil fields.
Okay.
And my dad had a very unique off sense of humor. He's over here at the KMA, oil leases over here, and he's running with a buddy of his on a neighboring lease. Well, they had one of the jack wells that wasn't lined up right, so they had to realign it. And the way you measure the upswing on a pumper, it's 6 feet from the bottom of the pump to the top. Well, he didn't have a ruler with him, and my dad, they were in this guy's truck, so my dad didn't have his rulers with him. So it's like, okay, well, hell, the sleeve, those stainless steel sleeves they use on the pump units, are 6 feet long.
Okay.
So my dad, he's standing there, he's holding the son of a bitch in his hand, got it down next to the wellhead. He goes, "All right, now bump it up." And the guy bumps it up. He says, "All right, now, when it gets to the top, and I tell you to stop, you turn that son of a bitch off." Well, the guy was about a half second too late turning it off. Came down, hit the top of that sleeve, slid the thing through my dad's hands, and down through the top of his boot,
Oh, wow.
and scooped out the end of his big toe
Oh.
from the mid knuckle.
Oh.
Right? He pulls it out, no blood. He's like, "Oh," and he throws it over on the ground. And he said, "All right, well, we can take my ass to the hospital." So they go down to damn Wichita General. They're sitting in the damn emergency room. My mom gets there. She's standing right there in the door. And Doc has got everything trimmed off, and he's trimming up the broken bone with a pair of clippers.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad is sitting there with his leg up, watching him, and he's like, "Hey, Doc." Doc looks up and goes, "What?" He says, "I think you're getting into the quick. Like you trim your tongue, like you trim your fingernails to get into that." That's what he was talking about. "I think you're getting into the quick." Doctor looks at him and goes, "Oh, the son of a bitch, those damn clippers on the floor." My mother's telling my dad to shut up. That was my dad. Now, temper, 0.5 millimeter long and made out of cannon fuse.
Okay.
Okay? He'd go off. You did not want him mad at you.
No.
Because if he didn't whip you, he'd give you a look like you wished you'd had, just to get it over with.
Yeah.
Kind of like when I talk to people and I just give them that look. Yeah, you've seen it.
Nah, your look, I've seen that look. That look is a priest compared to your granddad. Anyway.
I've had people tell me, "Just hit me and get it over with."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "No."
I do this every once in a while. I'll just start staring at somebody and everything. People have this thing
yeah.
to where they don't like being stared at.
Dude, just unnerves them.
Yeah.
And that, or talk when they know you're pissed off at them, and you don't raise your voice. You talk at them in a really smooth, low,
It's very unsettling.
condescending tone. It just, like, these guys hated it. I mean, they're like, just punish me, please. No, I am.
Yeah, Colin and Reagan hate it.
Oh yeah, they were, yeah.
Oh no, when I do it, they're like, it's like, I know he pulled the pin to that grenade. Where did it go? You know?
No, my daughter just breaks down whenever I do it.
I grew up learning all that from my dad,
Yeah.
and I tried to not use the parts that I really didn't like, but the parts that were I could adapt to make them more useful or more effective.
Yeah.
Well, then being in the Navy, I learned a lot from my supervisors.
Yeah.
My first supervisor or leading petty officer in the Navy on my first ship was from Waco, named Bill Bunch. OS-1 Bunch, or back then it was RD-1, radarman. And
you're a radar
I was a
man?
radarman.
Okay.
And I was just an E3, he was E6. And he'd already been in the Navy for 22 years before I ever got to that ship. And his philosophy was, the first thing he did was, he'd always ask somebody where they're from. You didn't want to know your name, you want to know where you're from. And when you said Texas, you were automatically on his shit list, being a homeboy. Okay, so he expected Texans to be twice as good or 3 times as better than anybody else.
Yeah, okay.
All right. So he walks around and goes, okay, you see that shiny shoe down there? That's an 8.5 triple E. I'm fixing to insert it up your ass. And we're going to have 3-legged races every day until you know how to do your job. Then I'm going to pull it out. But then I'll walk around, stick it back up there now and then, just so you know I'm still watching. And he says, you know why I do that? And he goes, I don't like. And they tell you in boot camp, don't ask why. Don't say the word why. And he's like, do you know why? And you just go, you don't want to say, no, I don't know why. He goes, the philosophy that I go by, if you're going to be an asshole, be a good asshole, because there's nothing worse than a half-ass asshole. I mean, if your name ain't on the shithouse wall, you ain't doing your job. So I learned from that guy after I learned from my dad. And then, I mean, I was in the Navy for, 3 years before you were born?
Yeah.
So, and it's like, and she and I, Carol and I had been married for about 1.5 years when he came around. So.
See, I always find it funny, as the generations progress, more and more parallels are out there, right? When I got to Fort Campbell and I reported to my unit, my first platoon sergeant, Sergeant First Class Zamudio, was from Victoria, Texas. So, still South Texas. And he's like, you from Texas? I'm like, Roger that, Sergeant. He goes, oh, all right, we got to stick together then, right? And I was like, well, I'm just like, I'm barely 18 years old, and just like fresh out of basic and airborne school. I'm sitting there going, I have no idea what the fuck I'm doing. And like, he was cool, right? He was one of those good NCOs that didn't like try to be that day zero drill sergeant hard ass, right? Because they knew that here in the real world we got shit to do,
Mm-hmm.
But my first, because I got there on a Friday, and then that first Monday, right, was my first actual PT with my unit. Well, Sunday night at about 1:30 in the morning, my door gets kicked in, and I'm having alcohol, copious amounts, being shoved in my face. I mean, remember the first words that I'm hearing after the commotion subsides is "drink, bitch," right?
Mm-hmm.
I showed up to PT that first day, that first Monday, drunk off my ass, dude. I'm sitting there going, And so we had what's called as an air assault run. Now, where the air assault school used to be is 2.5 miles across main post, right? So we're over here at 327, and then over there by where the rocket dummies, the rocket sons, sorry, are posted up at is where the Sobolowski Air Assault School used to be before it's at its current location. Well, that was our turnaround point. He's like, "Oh, we're gonna go do an air assault run," and I'm like, "I don't know what that is, but that sounds painful as hell right now, you know." And so we get to the turnaround point, and we're running back, and Sergeant Z is moving up and down the formation, and he's like, he's sniffing, and he's like, he gets to me and he goes, "Skeleton, you stink." And I was like, "What was wrong?" And he goes, "Did you get drunk last night?" I was like, "Not by choice." He goes, "Are you drunk now?" "Not anymore, Sergeant." And "Oh, uphold the platoon standard. Were you drunk when we started?" I was like, "Roger that." And he goes, "Now fall out to the rear. You smell so bad." Right? You know, so I fall out of formation. I fall into the rear, and I'm bringing up the rear. And we get back, and dude, that was my first introduction to fully functional alcoholism, right? You know, I'm sitting there going, like, this is the key that the gods use to measure their strength. They just did all their PT hammered or hungover because you couldn't feel it, right?
Yeah.
So
No,
that was the dirty secret. It's like, oh,
my
God,
introduction
this guy's
with
a
that.
PT stud. Oh, no, he's just drunk.
My introduction with that, because I was a cook, was they had me run the grill the entire night, and I was just, I didn't plan on going in that night, so I was drinking.
Yeah.
And after that, they were like, "Oh, you're drunk?" I was like, "Well, I wasn't even supposed to be here today."
You're like
Damn
the
it.
dude from Clerks.
Yeah, I wasn't even supposed to be here today. You told me to come in, so I came in. You didn't ask me to come in sober. You should have been more specific. But he's like, "Well, you run the grill." Dude, for the longest time, I didn't eat eggs because of that situation. And I never, anytime I had to go to work the next day, I'll drink like 2 days beforehand, but I won't drink the day before or anytime. It was like, "Oh, we're going to work tomorrow. Let's go get drunk." No, that's a bad idea.
Yeah.
I've
Well, it's
done
like, it
situations
took forever.
that.
Like, I still can't. I can drink any other kind of tequila, but I can't touch Jose Cuervo. Because he and I got into an entire fight, and it lasted all 5 rounds. That's how long it take me to drain an entire fifth, right?
Yeah.
By myself. The next morning, I'm obviously late for PT. I remember getting woken up, and all 4'7" of him, Specialist Waldron, comes walking in, and he's like, "Oh my God, are you okay?" And I'm like, "No." Right? He goes, "Don't move. I'll be right back." And I'm like, I'm not fucking going anywhere, right? I mean, that is probably the worst I've ever felt after a night of drinking, right? So he comes back and he goes, "My car's parked outside, so you're going to get up." And I was like, this will be fun, right? Because I hadn't thrown up at all, like zero, you know. But so he gets me into his car, and we drive literally half a mile over, and that's not even half a mile. No, it's like a quarter mile.
Okay.
So the 1,600 meters, over, boop, there you go, right? So we drive over to the TMC, the Troop Medical Center, right? It's where you go do the sick call shit, right? So we get in there, and the PA, he's looking at me. He goes, "How long has it been since you had any water?" I'm like, "Well, I drank a bunch of water last night." Lying my ass off, because at this point I'm underage.
It looked like water.
I'm still underage, right? And I am like deathly afraid that I am going to get an Article 15 for underage drinking. And I'm like, I don't need that I don't need that in my life. So I'm like, yeah, I mean, I hydrated last night, absolutely. So they did they tested what do they call it, the turns,
Yep.
right? Where they like they're pressing on this and this, and they're doing like. I mean, they did like 3 or 4 different tests, and they were like, yeah, he is seriously dehydrated. So 3 bags of IV solution. Actually, yeah, 3 bags. And then they put me on quarters for 3 days. Right? Like, I couldn't leave my barracks room for 72 hours. And I'm sitting there going, I looked at my squad leader, I go, dude, I need Gatorade. He goes, you got your wallet? I'm like, uh-huh. He goes, I'll take you to the shop at. So we went all the way down into housing where the good shop at was. The 24/7 shop at had, anyway, so I buy dude, it was just like Gatorade was like 25 cents a bottle, and it was like, you remember, it was still in the glass bottles.
Yeah.
He's too young to remember.
Yeah, had
Glass.
a really high sodium content.
It does. But like,
I'm 2 years younger than you.
do you remember buying?
Yes.
Okay, all right, never mind. So the
Just look.
what? Bring it, send it. What you got?
Just because I
Sally.
look young.
Yeah, okay.
All right, anyway. So I get, probably about $10 worth of Gatorade. And I was, dude, it was a lot, right? And then he makes me buy like 5-gallon jugs of water. And he opens up the mini fridge that's in my room. There was no room in there, right? And he goes, if I find out that this is why you were sick, I'm going to kick your ass. And I was like, I'm keeping that cold for Trainer, who lives across the hall. He goes, what's wrong with Trainer's fridge? I said, it's full too. and he legitimately, he goes, he's a fucking alcoholic. Right? And I'm sitting there going, I'm like, uh-huh. Yeah, absolutely he is. So, I mean, and dude, I start going stir crazy. I'm sitting there going, I'm hungry. I need to move around. I need to, I'm sitting there doing PT in my room. And I'm just like, so I'm taking advantage of the fact that my smelly ass first roommate, George Yerkes, was not there during the day. So I'm like, I'm trying to clean as much as I can. I'm scrubbing shit down, and like half of the room smelled glorious. And then it was like, was it like the Boris and Natasha cartoons where it was like peace and you had the dove, and then there's this like, and then there's a definitive line where it's all battlefields and trenches and shit.
Yeah.
That's what it was like, right? So I walk in.
The dove flies over the line, turns into a puff of feathers.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, like my introduction to this guy, my first day there, I come into the barracks, and I hear Tupac being played very loudly, right? And I'm like, so I open the door. And you know how when it's cold outside and you open the door to like a business or something, you get hit with that blast of hot air. Mm-hmm. You're like, ooh, okay, this is nice. Imagine replacing that heat with a wall of stench.
I had a guy that was in our dorms that literally had to go to medical because he had a cockroach in his ear.
Nice. So I walk in.
Yeah,
all
we
right.
had one like that. His name was Garrity.
How can you do that? Was it in the barracks or actually on the ship?
On the ship.
Fuck, that's...
No. I mean, this guy liked to take right guard showers. Okay.
Okay, explain that one to me.
Okay. You instead of taking a shower, his idea of a shower was to get up, kind of right guard,
Oh, okay.
and
Right,
get
gotcha.
dressed in a clean uniform. All right. Now, we're in Japan. You know what a benjo ditch is?
Mm-mm.
That's an open sewer
Okay.
with a sidewalk over it. Okay. Japanese were doing maintenance on this on that portion of the sidewalk. Garrity's stumbling back from the club, walking down the sidewalk, walks around the barrier, and gets back on what he thinks is the sidewalk. Falls in the benjo ditch. All right, and this thing is deep enough that he can't climb out by himself. He's down there yelling. Shore Patrol walks by, and they're like, "Oh crap!" So I mean, One of them reaches down to pull him out, to help pull him out. He pulls that son of a bitch in with him in his whites. Garrity's getting his whites because he had to go on, E3 and below had to go on Liberty in uniform. And then the other guy's like, hang on. And he went and got a little rope that he found at the construction site and got his buddy out. Then the two of them pulled Garrity out. And they were talking about running his ass in, but while they were arguing about what, how bad one of them stank and everything, he just kind of wandered away from them and came back to the ship. Does he get undressed in the head? No. Does he go take a shower? No. He takes off his crap-covered clothes, and he lived on the bottom. The bunks in our berthing areas were 3 high. Mm-hmm. And the bottom bunk and the middle bunks were Northamptons, which were basically you had a locker underneath your mattress.
Yeah.
And the middle bunk was rigid. The bottom bunk would fold up, what we call tricing up. You hook it with a strap, and so that way we could sweep them up, re-wax underneath.
Aren't most of them like that though?
They are now, but the top racks are always just a pancake.
Okay.
And the guy, whoever had a top rack, the only locker he had was a stand-up.
Okay.
Which was about 1/8 the amount of storage. And that was usually for all the E3s and stuff like that. But Garrity had been around, he'd already been in for 7 years and was still an E3. Back then you could have career E3s.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he just didn't want to he didn't want to be a petty officer. And he's like, oh yeah, then I have to make a decision, I got to be a supervisor. Fuck that. So, he takes off his clothes and throws them on Bunch's rack.
Okay.
Bunch laid out his uniforms before he goes on Liberty. Because he doesn't come back to the ship he don't sleep on the ship at night. He goes out and sleeps out in town. He comes back next day, and here's all these crap-covered whites laying on top of his freshly ironed and starched dungarees.
That motherfucker better gotten on like a soap party.
We're not really sure what happened. We have to go by just bits and pieces because those of us that were in there when he came back that night, we grabbed our blankets and pillows and we went up to the radar room and slept up there.
Jesus, I would have.
I mean, we just camped out on the deck in the radar room. But I mean, there's like anyway. Well, what we heard was Bill grabbed him by the ankle, dragged him bodily out of his rack into the head, stuffed him in the decon shower, and turned it on. Decon shower is not fresh water.
No, it's not.
It's salt water. And it's cold. I don't give a shit where you are. It's cold.
Yeah.
All right. And let's see, this was Japan in the winter, so yeah, it was extra cold. No, it wasn't winter. Just right at the tail end of summer, it was starting to cool down. So anyway, he calls up the CIC and he says, "Who's up there?" And we tell him who's up there. He says, "I want Skelton and I want Peters and I can't remember the other guy, Hayden. Get your ass down here now. You're going to take care of Garrity." And we're like, "What do you mean take care of him?" He says, "You're going to decon that son of a bitch." We were down there in about 30 seconds from the 03 level behind the bridge down to our berthing area, which was one deck down from the main deck.
Mm-hmm.
So we're like all the way aft. So we're like, okay, decon, all right. Lysol, and we used the scrub brushes that we used on the deck. We took a layer of hide right off of him. He was pink when we got done with him. Bunch comes in and he goes, "I can still smell him. Do it again." So we soaked him up again, rinsed him off. We weren't going to try to hit him with those brushes. We figured we'd kill him if we hit him with those brushes again. And we weren't even, one of them had a handle, two of them didn't. So, but yeah, ugh. Garrity learned how to take a shower.
I think my
And
dad
Bunch,
had.
and Bunch had him moved elsewhere. He didn't want that so much underneath his rack.
I think my dad had a similar story. I mean, there's always like that one.
Yeah, there's always one scrounge. I mean, there's always one dirtbag. I mean, this guy was like, poster child for dirtbag.
Yeah, my guy was Yerkes. Like, okay, they had sent him to JRTC, which is in Fort Polk, right? For 1 month to be a computer player. So they didn't want him touching a weapon system. They were like, you're going to be playing glorified video games, right? So basically he could see where everybody was at. He was gone for 30 days. Our chain of command came in and was like, Skelton, your tasking is to clean the fuck out of this room. And I was like, roger that. Dude, I went to Dollar General. This was my introduction to Dollar General, right? Like, you go to the PX or the BX or whatever, and you pay for cleaning supplies, and you're going to walk out of there spending $30 easy, and you're not going to get much of anything, right? Go to Dollar General, I spend half as much, and I get 3 times the amount. I'm like, how come I never fucking knew about this place before? Right? I remember talking to my mom on the phone, and she was like, where do you think I shop? And I'm like, oh, big light bulb, right? I had to, okay, so.
Well, she had to figure out something because my job, I wasn't in it for the money. That's for damn
right,
sure.
yeah. And then with 4 kids to feed, yeah, so it was, yeah. But. So. Like the stereo that he would listen to music on, it was,
You don't want Lion?
no,
Yerkes.
it was one of those shelf stereos, that was like, it was bulkier than it needed to be, right? Because it was all just
Plastic,
looks,
yeah.
right? It was all plastic and particle board, right? I threw it out because it might have gotten something spilled in it, right? So I threw it out. Nobody wanted to come in the doorway of this room, let alone be on the same floor with it, right?
I gotcha.
So I went from having a mop level 4 room to the week that he was supposed to come back, the weekend before, I'm having a barracks party in my room. Oh yeah, barracks party in my room. Everybody's like, because it was the grand reopening, right? It was like the opening to Bob's Burgers, It's like grand opening, Yerkes, grand reopening, Yerkes again, And like my chain of command even showed up, like my squad leader and I think my section leader, they were like, is this the same room? Like, legitimately, is this the same room? I'm like, yeah, it is, aren't? And they're like, damn, you gonna kill Yerkes? He comes back and fucks his room up, aren't you? I'm like, oh yeah, oh yeah. And so the Advon comes back from Fort Polk, and Yerkes was on the Advon, and I didn't even see the bus come in, right? Because I was at the motor pool because it was a Monday, so it was command maintenance Monday. So I come back, and we broke for chow, so I'm going to my room, and somehow he buys this shitty looking boombox, and I hear Tupac playing, and I'm like, what took me better part of a week and a half to clean thoroughly,
He does in like 30 minutes.
he fucked it up in about the span of about 15 minutes. Like, smoke hanging in the room, his shit is strewn all over the place, and he is in a dirty fucking uniform, muddy boots, feet cross-legged on the couch, ashing his cigarette onto the carpet. I turned around, I looked at him, I was like, I'm going to walk out this door because if I don't, I will end you. Right? And I walked out. And I went up to the company. And I went into the platoon office. And my section leader at the time was Staff Sergeant Williams. He quite possibly the whitest black dude I've ever met in my life. And that is saying a lot, right? And he goes, let's put it this way. Sergeant Williams' nickname was Guy Smiley. Okay, anyway, so I walked in there and he's like, what's wrong with you? And I'm like, Yerkes. He goes, no. I said, uh-huh. So he goes, come with me. So he grabs me and he grabs Corporal Janisek, who was Yerkes' squad leader at the time. we're walking back to the barracks. And I had opened up the curtains and everything like that. You know, I mean, the windows were locked because, physical security. My room was on the first floor. Mm-hmm. So, but the curtains were all drawn. We walk in there. Yerkes is straight up laid out across the couch, right? Mud everywhere, dirt, dust, shit everywhere. It smelled like somebody physically took a shit in the middle of the floor, right? And it's not one of those nice, perfect, coiled. I mean, it was just nasty, right? Sergeant Williams walks in, walks out, gags, and then comes back in and tells Yerkes he's got 2 seconds from yesterday to get up and get outside. Corporal Janisek is looking at the damage. I mean, he's just like, he goes outside, he takes a deep breath, he goes back inside, and he opens up the curtains and opens up the windows. And, I mean, they had Yerkes locked up, and he was in the front lane arrest, and he was getting his ass smoked, right? Because the carnage he unleashed on that clean room was just unbearable, right? Yerkes eventually got evicted from the barracks for a week. And I had to lend him one of my shelter half so that he could pitch a tent in front of the company and sleep there for a week.
Slept on the lawn.
Yeah, I mean, because First Sergeant Rodriguez was...
Bivouacked in front of the barracks.
Yeah, no, it was in front of the company.
Oh, bivouacked in front of the company.
Uh-huh.
Oh, even better.
Because we were on black cycle, which means we were on alert status. We had 24-hour CQs going in addition to staff duty. Mm-hmm. So Alpha through Delta Company, the line companies were in one building. Headquarters was on the opposite side of battalion. So you had staff duty runners and staff duty NCOs from all 4 line companies going out there fucking with Yerkes. Like, they would knock the pole lines out of the ground, and Yerkes decided he was going to get smart one night, and he took the bottom half of a pool stick into the tent with him, and some E7 goes to reach open and look inside the tent, and Yerkes hit this, all he said, all I saw were fingertips, and so he just smacked him, split the fingertip open on this E7. So now he's looking at assault, and I'm just like, oh shit, Yerkes, because I was on CQ that night. And I'm sitting there going, what the fuck? Oh, you fucked up, right? But First Sergeant Rodriguez, who eventually left us and went to go to the air assault school to be first sergeant over there. Yerkes was given at the end of that 7 days. Yerkes, the only time he was allowed to be in the room was 3 times a day. Once in the morning to shower, once in the middle of the day to do his laundry. He had to do his laundry, all of it, even if it was clean, every day at noon, right? That was his chow, right? And Sergeant Williams had to be the one to watch him do it. And he was like, I'll be so glad when this period's over because I'm tired of watching Yerkes and his pasty white, nasty ass fucking shower. And I'm like, I don't blame you, Sergeant, but, and then in the evening, Yerkes had to shower again, right? Yerkes was the kind of guy that we all came in from the field.
Yeah.
And we went to go out. Yeah, where were we going? I think we were going to a strip club, the Pink Lady. It was like down on 41A, Fort Campbell Boulevard, right?
Nobody in the over by there knows about that one.
Yeah, well, if you've ever been to Fort Campbell, you know about the two main strip clubs, the Cat West, which is closed now. Rest in peace. And then you've got the Pink Lady, which was down, it was part of it was in a strip mall. Anyway, digress. Hey,
How does that happen?
what, strip malls?
No, having a strip club at a strip mall. That's like,
Yeah, I know that's like divine, isn't it?
yeah.
But, so we were all going down there.
Huh?
Kind of redundant.
I know.
We went in there, and I mean, and we would pay for we'd tip the dancers, or we'd pay for a lap dance or whatever, right? Yerkes comes in there. Not only did he not get the opportunity to buy a lap dance, but it's mostly because he was being refused, but the celebrity or the touring dancer, so to speak, that was there that night, he went to go get his picture taken with her. She looked at him and goes, "You're not coming anywhere near me until you shower and get that nasty green shit from out of your ear." And we were like, and she said this loud, and we were like, "Oh, damn." And we were like, "Yerkes, what the fuck?" This motherfucker still had camo paint in his ears. We're like, dude, what the fuck, bro? Like, how are you going to go out into public like this? Like, do you just, he's like, "I don't give a fuck about these bitches." And we were like, well, apparently you do, because you were fixing to throw a half a month of paychecks at her. But she told you, "You smell, motherfucker." It's not just us. But, like, we were out in the field, and Sergeant Zamudio, this was just before he left us, and there used to be a place out in the back 40 called the Rat's Nest, because first platoon, before we changed our name to Red Zone, we were the Rat Bastards, right? First platoon, home of the Rat Bastards. There was a place that was just kind of like a little hole in it's where the Sengar radios couldn't reach, right? It was just a black hole. Radio signals go in, but nothing comes out, right?
Yeah.
They called it the Rat Nest. So we basically had to borderline flood trucks trying to get it, forward, because it had just rained for like a week and a half straight. So like all the creek beds were up and everything. And so we cross one creek, and then we get to the Rat Nest, right? And the only reason we stopped where we were going to stop is because I think it was Staff Sergeant Perez's truck. They were driving, and Uribe was the gunner in that truck. And he's sitting there, he was supposed to be the one going, "Yeah, okay, it looks good," and so their driver was going to keep driving. The next thing we see the first, like, I would say almost the first front half of the truck disappears underwater like that. And you see dudes coming out of the gunner's hatch. And Sergeant Perez is like, "Wait, hold the fuck up." So he reaches back down into the truck. And you remember those little black laptop looking things that we used to load the crypto into the radios with?
Yeah, you can easily take the crypto off of them.
Yeah, right. Well,
It was stupid. You had like, what's really strange about
the J1 cables?
Yeah,
You could either lick them or with the eraser.
That if you hit the wrong button, you had to get your crypto redone, and it was so easy to find that fucking button. Mm-hmm. It was super ridiculous.
And the plugger.
How hardcore did you have to have it to where you didn't lose it? Because if you lost that thing, you're talking about...
We're talking an entire battalion, double arm interval, doing a online sweep of the grid squares until it got found.
Yeah.
Because the crypto is for the entire military.
Yeah.
Well, it was because with the Sengar radios, the way that they worked is that you could be on the same frequency as anybody else, but you had to be within 1 second on the time,
Yeah.
or else you couldn't hear anybody.
Yeah, no, it's like ours. It's like Navy Secure Voice.
Right. So,
The red phone.
but he reaches back
Yeah.
down. He jumps back down into the hatch, and he's fishing around because he he had that. I'm trying to remember what the nomenclature on that was. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So he had the crypto device down in his seat,
Yeah.
and on the TC side of the Humvee, you had to pop that seat lid up, and that's where the truck batteries were. But there was also, it was on the left hand side. It was next to the frame, where you could keep binoculars in there, or you can keep whatever else. So he had the crypto down in his seat, and so he jumped back down in the truck, and the truck's sitting there going like this, and he's trying to fish this out. And then he grabs the damn radios out of the doghouse, and he's pulling them up and handing them up through. And we're like, oh, fuck, So he finally gets out of the truck, and this truck, it stops shifting. And we're like, oh, fuck. We're fucked, right? And everybody's like, Uribe, what the fuck, man? So we had to hook up. We had to take the air assault sling legs, because
Yeah.
the tow bar wouldn't work, right?
Not at that angle.
So we had to take our air assault sling legs, and we took 2 sling legs and we hooked it up to the front bumper of our truck, and then the other 2 to the truck that was sinking. And so we're trying to pull, right? Understanding that there's a maximum load bearing capacity on those sling legs, right? And we're stretching those damn things out, right? So we're like, oh fuck! All right, damn, this is gonna suck, right? So we ended up taking one of our other trucks and hooking it up to our truck. They pull, we pull, and then we took 2 trucks to pull this truck out of the water, right? And so as soon as they got it up out of the water, the hood goes up. They open up the air cleaner, pull the filter out, and set it on top of the truck so it could air dry. And it's one of those shitty paper filters. So and water is just pouring out of this engine block, right? Because it's those 6.2 Detroit diesels. Mm-hmm. We must have sat there for, I don't know, probably 5-6 hours, like an entire day. We were supposed to be we were trying to sham out anyway, because they were hip pocket training, but we were in the field, and Sergeant Z was just like, oh, fuck that, so we went and found this place and got stuck, right? While we were there, the water that we submarined the truck into, cold as shit, but dude, I'm telling you, it was like spring fed, right? So it was just beautiful. We took it upon ourselves to clean ourselves. We went swimming and we bathed. And Yerkes is up there. He's like 20 feet from the edge of the water. And I went over to Corporal Janicek. I was like, hey, how much shit you gonna give us if we grab Yerkes and fucking throw him in? And I heard Sergeant Zamudi over there going, fucking do it now. Right? And so Yerkes had all of his load-bearing equipment on, right? And so we take his weapon away from him, and we picked him up. He's like, and he is fighting us. I mean, he's trying to do like death rolls and shit to get away from us, and we're hanging on to him. And we blocked him out. There was a tree that had fallen, and it was one of the pretty good sized ones, right? Yeah. So we step up onto that, and we're walking. We're like 10 feet out into the water. Yeah, you can just hold it. It's all good. But and Yerkes is like, don't fucking do it. Don't fucking do it. And we were like, 1, 2, and we knew he was going to take us in there with us. So we said. Okay, so yeah, so we knew he was going to try to drag us in there with him anyway. So we just jumped in there with him on 3, right?
I guess I just can't mess with it.
So we jump in there on 3 with him, and where we jumped in was only like 5 feet deep. So we pushed him out, right, to where he had to tread. And he's like, I got all my shit on. I'm going to drown. He's like, I can't fucking swim. We're like, figure it out. And so we waded back into this, back onto the grass. And I went into my rucksack and I grabbed a bar of Irish Spring soap. I was like, and it was still in the box, right? I was like, hey, Yerkes. And I was like, frag out. And I threw it at him. And he was like, oh, no, you don't fucking know me. And I was like, oh, yeah, I do. I fucking live with you, asshole. And Sergeant Moody was like, Yerkes, you are not to come back in here until you are fucking white again. Because, and he became like, you know how some people they become so like impressed, not impressed in a good way, but like they leave such an indelible mark, right? That their name becomes an adjective,
Yeah.
right? What we called the filth that we had when we came back from deployment or from the field, he carried with him constantly. So we called it the Yerkes tan.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So we're like, I've been out here for 2 weeks, man. I'm just now barely getting a good Yerkes tan going, right? You know? And they're sitting there going, well, that's because you're not fucking doing anything, you know? Like, I'm a gunner. What am I supposed to fucking do, right? But Yerkes carried around a fucking Yerkes tan 365. You didn't care, right? You know, we're just like, oh, okay, guy, you know. And it was funny because one of the things that he treasured, this was his prized possession, was a black beret that he got to wear as a member of the Op 4 when he was stationed in Germany in Hohenfeld, right? And it was dirty, of course.
Of course it was.
And it had German dirt in it, right? German soil. And I'm like, he's like, that's my prized possession. I'm like, okay. So while he was gone at JRTC and I did that whole deep cleaning of the room, I'm sitting there and my neighbor and I
You washed it.
fucking washed it. And then I went back outside and I rubbed it around in the dirt there in good old Fort Campbell, Kentucky. I put it back in his wall locker. He comes back. When they let him move back into the barracks, the first thing that he did, he copped a squat on his bunk, grabbed his beret out of his fucking wall locker, put it on. I was sitting there going, is that like a security blanket or some shit, man? He goes, yeah, what the fuck you mean to do? I was like, oh, it's just, you know,
Yeah.
there's something in that German soil, I guess. And he goes, it was comforting. It was my favorite place to be stationed. I was like, all right, dude. I walked out. And my neighbor was like, you're never going to tell him, are you? I'm like,
No.
no. But I ended up telling him the day that he got walked off main post after he got chaptered. He's walking out, he's telling everybody goodbyes, and he's like, fuck you, you're cool, fuck you, right? And he's walking out, and I was like, hey, Yerkes. He turns around, he's like, what? And I said, hey, you're Op 4 beret from Hohenfeld? He goes, yeah. I said, I fucking washed it. That dirt on there is from outside our barracks room. Have a nice life. I turned around, walked into the arms room. And I could hear him. He's like, you motherfucker, you son of a bitch. And Staff Sergeant Pfluger was our section leader at the time. He goes, Yerkes, get in the back of my truck. Like, sit in the bed, because you're not sitting in the cab of my truck. I'll drop you off at gate 4. You can fucking walk off. I don't care. He did, too. He dropped him off at the, dropped him off at the gate. And he told him, you walk that way until you hit 41A, left or right, I don't care, but later.
They just drop him off, let him walk out.
Yep.
Oh, you guys are easy.
Yeah.
And we had a guy when I was stationed in Fallon in northern Nevada. It's where the Navy has all its light bomb ranges and learns how to give people like Saddam their 6 o'clock wake ups.
Okay.
The CO and XOs we had there were very into the tradition type stuff, especially the stuff that just really humiliates you if you fucked up. And anybody that got bad conduct or other than honorable and was getting kicked out, they would take him out to the gate and march him from the gate sentry post to within 1 foot of the property line. They'd be 1 foot on base, and they'd only do an about face so that they're facing them. Then they would read their discharge orders with their back to them, and then once they read the discharge orders, they would turn back around, tell the guy, about face. Take 2 steps forward. Yeah, take 2 steps forward. He'd stop, turn around. He goes, then be like, now, if you cross that line anytime in the future, you will be arrested for trespassing on federal property. Have a nice trip. It was 6 miles to town.
Oh, wow.
That's what George Yerkes looks like, at least as of last year.
Jesus. Yeah, he looks like a dirtbag.
Dude,
But
looking at this picture, you know how, like, they say you can't hear pictures? Looking at this
yeah, you
picture,
can hear that picture.
I can hear, no, 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 no.
Yeah. Here's an interesting story from like 2 days ago. I've been seeing this all over my feed and everything about that kid that you seen the kid where his truck like flips around in the tornado and everything like that. Yeah. Apparently he got like a new truck because of it.
Oh, that's decent. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I
mean, he should have come right directly from.
Well,
Chevrolet.
he drove.
Yeah, no, you see it when it got flipped back on its wheels. He drove away.
Yeah, and he was driving to a job interview. He got the job.
Well, that's good.
But he's only 16, so I'm guessing the job was like to a burger fast food joint and everything. So, but a new truck, getting all that's kind of nice. Let's see, what are you looking for?
No, I'm just, I'm tripping out right now.
Why?
I'm just...
Going down memory lane.
Yeah, as soon as he started...
No. I'm legitimately, I mean, like, this dude...
You're cyber stalking him, aren't you?
No, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to send...
Cyber investigation?
No, I'm going to share this profile. I'm going to send it to my buddy here. No, I don't want to fucking message you. All right, hold on. There we go.
Just copy and paste it.
Just.
All right, fine.
No, he's talking about back in about all the drinking and everything. When I was in, I mean, you overseas, you drink like a fish.
See, the only time frame I started drinking a lot was when I was in.
Not drink hardly anything at all.
Yeah, the only time I actually drank a lot was when I was a correction officer.
Well, on deployments back then, we're talking, that culture that went all the way into the 70s and 80s.
Yeah.
Before they, started doing, like,
I mean, you were a sailor, drunk.
I mean, it's like my last ship.
Yeah.
Was late 80s, early 90s, well, up through 1990. And you could smoke on that ship.
Yeah.
Now, we had a sister ship, same class of ship. I was on the Sacramento and we had the Camden. Now, the Camden, before I retired, you could not smoke on that ship. It was a non-smoking ship. And alcohol was starting to be frowned on. And if you went out and got shit-faced and came back the next day, if you couldn't function 100%, they wrote your ass up. I mean, it's like you got here at Shepherd in the in the 90s. The enlisted club went away.
Yeah.
That building doesn't even exist anymore.
Yeah, I used to work there.
Yeah, see, that building's gone.
Yeah.
And the old officers club is like a all personnel type
Yeah.
thing, but you hardly see anybody there.
Yeah.
So, but back then, I mean, the culture of drinking was just, it was just a fact of life back then. And if you had a pulse the next day and could stand upright, you were good to go. And I was that way a few times. I mean, it's like E3, first ship, and my LPO kept a bottle of, he had a Navy issued mouthwash bottle. Still had the label on it in the whole 9 yards. Johnny Walker Red. Okay. Worst kept secret on the ship. Nobody didn't think about it. My first CO, best CO I ever had, Captain Reichert. I was his driver. I was 5 minutes late picking him up one day in the morning, and I went to Mass. He took me to, he wrote me up, took me to Mass, and adjudicated my Mass himself. Gave me 3 hours extra duty working down in the damn fire room. I was always 10 or 15 minutes early every day after that. But, I mean, it's like, before I was his driver, I had to go on mess duty. And what we call mess cranking. If you're, normally you're wind up working in the scullery doing dishes, or you're working the serving line, or you're part of the cleanup crew doing, clean up mess decks and all that. I got lucky. I was working for the Jack of the Dust.
What's that?
It's like an assistant storekeeper.
Okay.
For the cooks.
Yeah.
And we broke out all the provisions that were going to be needed for the meals that day.
Yeah.
Now, my supervisor was SK3 Wise, and he was Jewish. Ate more pork than anybody else that I ever knew in my whole life. And he was from the Bronx. Little guy. He was like 5'3", 5'4". Had a real thin hair on top. I mean, it's like, looked like a Mr. Slade Comb-Over off the Flintstones.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Drove a AMC Gremlin, Levi edition. Had the denim seats in it.
Oh God.
He loved that car. And we'd go down, we'd break everything up, and he's like, okay, we're going to go to dinner. We're not eating this crap they friend you. Because he knew it was on the menu that night. He said, no, we're not going to eat this shit. We'd go out in town, and like, we're going to Denny's, I'm buying. And it didn't matter what time of day we went into Denny's, he always had breakfast. 2 eggs, ham, hash browns on it. He just eat breakfast. He's like, he said, is there any time you don't eat ham? He goes, when I go home and leave. If I eat the stuff in front of my mother, she'll just rip sleep off her dress and, oh my God, my son's dead. That kind of stuff. I mean, the guy, that was a cool guy. But like I said, and drink like a fish too. Oh Lord God.
My dad was telling me this one story about when he was in Alaska about one of the guys that they found. It was just the first notion of functioning alcoholic, because he finally sobered up, and he was just a worthless piece of shit.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I go into the clubs overseas. It's like back when I was in E3. I mean, one of the first time I went into the Philippines. Now you talking about Disneyland West, with no moral limits whatsoever in that place. I was like, oh, I mean, they call Vegas Sin City, and Vegas is a day at church compared to that place back then. And it's like, when I first started going there, I mean, the streets were still damn red clay looking stuff, and you go out on the beach in your uniform, and to get across the street, you had to walk across the damn board to stay out of the mud.
Yeah.
And God help you if you came back all nasty and everything, because those Marines at the damn gate would just give you shit. And that's after you walked over that 50-yard wide canal that they had, that all the sewer lines ran into. We called it Shit River. You basically got to learn how to hold your breath for 50 yards getting across this damn thing. But it's like, go out in town and sit there and drink San Miguel all night, which was the local beer.
Yeah.
Now, in the Philippines, there was no quality control on their beer. You go out one night and drink a whole case of San Miguel and never get a buzz.
Did you ever drink that one alcoholic beverage? I think it was in Japan where they had like a cobra or something like that in the
No.
bot.
Nope.
My friend Kenny did, and well, the whole premise of the poison from the venom and everything like that, it stops your kidneys from functioning alcohol. So he was drunk for probably about 3 to 4 days.
I could do the same damn thing going to Australia and drinking their beer.
Yeah.
I mean, their goddamn beer is 12% by volume. Of course, their can of beer was
Okay,
twice the size of ours.
from what someone told me is like Foster beer isn't really a thing in Australia.
No, the beer. The main beer in Australia is 4X.
4X, okay.
Yeah, it's the gold can with red lettering, and that's what we drink.
Yeah.
I mean, Foster's is the stuff that they export. You know, and
Oh,
you know,
okay,
you go
okay,
down to
okay.
the liquor store, you get Foster's.
Yeah.
Well, okay. I mean, it tastes like crap. Well, I don't know if they still do it, but back then they used to import the damn thing. They would preserve one of the preservatives was formaldehyde. So
No, I think that was Guinness for a while.
yeah,
I know Guinness has a little, like a small amount of formaldehyde
Yeah,
with
but
it or something
what do you
like that.
expect from a drink that when you pour it into a glass, the bubbles go down?
I still like it though.
Oh, I do. Yeah. If you can read a newspaper through it, no, I'm sorry, I'm just drinking a glass of piss.
Yeah.
But anyway, go out there and drink a case of San Miguel one night and not get a buzz. Go out the next night, drink 3, and you're on your ass.
Yeah.
It just depends on where in the vat they canned it.
Oh
Or a lot of it.
Okay, I get that.
Holy crap! And then, but if you didn't want to go out in town and do that, we just go over to the Animal Pit there, the E3 Club or the Enlisted Man Club down on
Yeah.
base, the San Bagita Club. And we went in there one night, and there was some radioman off of one of the other ships, talking shit about our ship. And I said, okay. And I found out some bitch was from Oklahoma. Okay, so now I got 2 reasons to hate him.
Mm-hmm.
Well, actually 3. He's from a different ship. He's a radioman, and he's from Oklahoma.
Okay.
So, it's like, we need to go out here and settle this. He goes, well, I'll tell you what. I want to challenge you to a chug contest to see who's the man here. Well, as the challenged individual, I got to pick the drinks. So we had a chug contest with double 151 Mai Tais
Jesus Christ.
and highball glasses. 3 of them. They bring out 3, set them in front of you. And the deal was, whoever drank those 3 got up and walked to the door without passing out, won.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now there's a trick to chugging. And my first leading petty officer bunch told me about it. And I'm like, okay, this is the perfect time to try it out. I'm going to find out if he's full of shit. You get somebody to count. And when the guy goes 2, you dump all the air out of your lungs.
Okay.
All right? 3, pick it up and just pour without breathing. Just pour it right down your throat.
Mm-hmm.
Set it down, start walking to the door and start shallow breathing. Short, shallow breaths. Just enough to keep you alive. Just go into the door, go outside, find one of the banyan trees out there and just puke your guts out. Come back in. All right, motherfucker, pay up.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I never made it to the door. I finished it. I finished it. No, I didn't even go to the door. I got up. As soon as I got up, I felt sick.
Mm.
So I went to the head. And I'm in there paying homage to the porcelain god. And one of the petty officers that was with us, big, tall, skinny guy, Polish, Kalowski. He goes in to check on me. I'm in there. I'm in dry heaves by that time. And he's like, we gotta go. I gotta get you back to the boat. And I'm like, get the fuck away from me. I'm gonna puke on your shoes. And he says, dude, you ain't got nothing left. I mean, anything that comes out of your mouth now is probably gonna be your toenails.
Yeah.
So he grabs me, pulls me out of the head. One of the other guys gets on the other side and they take me to the door. And the guy goes, okay, you got him? He says, yeah, I got him. Goes over and he says, okay. And he run across a couple shore patrol. Well, in the Philippines, most of the time the shore patrol just like, hey, you need some help. They give you a ride back to the boat. And he goes, yeah, okay. Now there's a cardinal rule with shore patrol: is that you never let anybody get between you and your other partner,
Mm-hmm.
because you wear the nightsticks
Yeah.
on your right hand side. Well, they broke that rule. One of them grabbed me on one side and one grabbed me on the other, and they're taking me over to the van. And one of the nightstick hit me in the leg. And without thinking, I just reached down and grabbed whatever hit me,
Oh.
and I spun and hit one of them upside the head. Well, the other one immediately reacted. Waited until I was I was in front of him, and he just boom, back of my head. They picked me up, threw me in the back of the truck, take me down to the back down to the ship, back up to the brow. Ski comes out, him and the shore patrol, they're grabbing me by the ankles. Come on! Now, paddy wagons, it's got those benches in them. Right? It's got the steel pipe for supports.
Mm-hmm.
I'm laying, in the crucifix position,
Mm-hmm.
and they start pulling me out, and my arms get caught on
Oh
my
God.
legs, and they couldn't get my arms to bend far enough to do it. So one of them climbs in there, pulls my arms in. I'm like, leave me alone. I just want to go to sleep. So, you can't sleep in my van, you son of a bitch. So they get me out there, and they just pull me out there, and head goes off, hits the steps, hits the ground. They pick me up. Ski picks me up, throws me over his shoulder, and he's carrying me up the brow. Now, our supervisor was the petty officer of the watch,
Mm-hmm.
and Ski's coming up there, and he's got me in there, and I'm like, put me down. I'm gonna puke on your back. He says, dude, you got nothing left? Shut up. He gets up there and he sets me down, and petty officer watches. It's like, damn, that's Skelton. Skelton never gets drunk. What do you do? And he says, he kicked this radio in his ass from Bronstein over there, and he's like, well, why? He says, well, he's talking shit. Skelton took care of him. Well, where's the other guy? And he goes, oh yeah, shit, he didn't get halfway through his second glass, and he slid under the damn table. Whenever Skelton fucking sobers up, I'm going to give him the $25 that we took out of the guy's wallet. And he takes me down to the berthing area. And I hit a top rack. Right now, the top rack is like 6 feet off the ground, off the deck.
Yeah.
And you got these little steps that are on the stanchion, on the support, so you can help climb up in there, right? And I'm got on jeans, I got on cowboy boots, button up, pearl button shirt. And, the epitome of shit kicker from Texas.
Yeah.
So,
Or a welder.
no, just shit kicker. Back in my day, it was just a shit kicker. And,
Yeah,
goat roper.
I heard both.
Yeah.
Shit
Yeah.
kicker, goat roper, whatever.
I even had my hat kidnapped.
But I'm climbing up. Now, there was a first class electronic warfare technician that had the bunk under mine. He had the middle bunk. And he was sleeping, and he had his leg kind of just off the edge of his bunk. And I used his ankle for to climb into my rack. Needless to say, he tried to sit straight up, but you can't sit straight up. There's not enough room, so he just bam, hits his head on the bottom of my rack. I'm oblivious to all this, and I just climb in my rack. I vaguely remember trying to undoing my belt, thinking I was going to take my pants off, but I still had my boots on, so I just fuck it, and I just went to sleep. Next morning, it's a Saturday. I ain't got duty. Fuck, I'm going back out in town. I get up, get out of my damn nasty ass civilian clothes, go take a shower and come back, get dressed. And I'm wondering why the first class below me, he's got this big fucking bandage on his damn leg. And I'm like, damn, what the hell happened to you? And he says, somebody get this motherfucker out of my sight, or I come out of this rack and kill him. And they're like, dude, you fucking stepped on his ankle, climbing into your rack last night. And I'm like, oh, sorry about that. You got duty today? No. You gonna leave the shift today? Well, I thought about it. I'm like, well, fine, come on, I'll fucking buy you a goddamn beer, or whatever you want to drink. It's like, dude, sorry.
Yeah.
He's like, well, yeah. So I go down to mess decks. No hangover. No. One thing, I was blind that night on the alcohol. I couldn't see when we got back to the ship. I'm like, where the fuck am I? So that's why I didn't see his leg. I'm climbing this damn thing by feel, like braille. So, yeah. So, anyway, I get up. I'm fine. Go down to mess decks. Hey, what do you want? Stand in the mess line, get up to the serving line. He's like, what do you want? I said, oh, I want about 5 eggs, about 3 pieces of bacon. You know, wolfed that down, went back, changed clothes, got him motherfuckers very close. At the beach. I wasn't going to drink that day, but had to make a stop by the club, buy the first class on whatever he was drinking. Turned out to be 7 and 7, about 4 of them. On top of his painkiller.
Oh my God! I just realized how much of a horrible thing that was.
Yeah, they gave him some Darvons or something. I don't know what back then. It wasn't Darvocet then. It was like it is now. It's like Darvon.
Yeah.
It's like one step down from oxycodone.
Yeah.
So anyway, there's like, he wasn't feeling any pain. We put him in the cab, sent him back to the ship, and I was like, yeah. Well, then I went over to the fucking miniature golf course and stayed there all day. But yeah, I mean, the alcohol back then is like, shit. You go out and play golf. You know, we'd go in Guam. I was on a ship out of Pearl, and we went into Guam, and engineers had said, well, we need to replace tubes in one of the boilers. So we were going to be there for like 3 or 4 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So the old man says, okay, well, we're just going to go to 6-section duty, which means you had duty every 6 days. So Papa would go working hours. We'd get up at 4, breakfast at 5, turn 2 at 6, get off at noon.
Mm.
The rest of the time is your own. If you didn't have duty, there's no reason to be on the ship. So, get our golf clubs, and we'd hit the golf course. hit the clubhouse before we went out. Kind of loosen up a little bit. Go out, play 9 holes, hit it again, refresh ourselves, go back, hit the back 9, come back in, and lie about our scorecards. Now this is in Guam. Freaking humidity is hell.
Yeah.
So anybody that's been to Anderson Air Force Base or Agana Naval Station knows what Guam is like.
Yeah, none of them had any kind of good speaking about it.
Yeah. So, but it's like we'd go down there and play golf 4 days in a row. Come back to the ship, get showered, put on a fresh set of civilian clothes, get in our rent-a-wreck that we'd rented from the Navy Exchange, rusted out floorboards and all this little Toyota Corolla, and we'd go down to this Mexican restaurant run by a Chinese guy. He had a Mexican wife, so it was authentic.
Yeah.
And we'd sit there, we'd eat our platter, we'd had a pitcher of margaritas, and we'd, like, after 3 days of doing this, the owner would come over, started coming over with a tray, with a freaking bottle of tequila, 3 shot glasses, lemon and a lime, lemon and a salt.
Mm-hmm.
And we'd sit there and kill half that bottle just trying to finish our meal. Then we go to the register, kill off about another quarter of the bottle. And then after we paid our bill, it took us the rest of the bottle just to get out the door. Then we went drinking.
Okay, so real quick, Colin is a staple on this show now. So he has the inappropriate joke, usually once or twice a week. So here we go. Here.
Okay, count.
All right, hold on a second, bud. Let me back out of my FaceTime here real quick.
Haircut
No.
No.
No. Say hi to your grandpa.
Hello.
All right. Can y'all hear him just fine?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, go ahead, bud.
Okay, was long and hard and full of semen. A submarine.
Bro, you gotta have one better. Do you have another one? Come on.
Jesus.
What a preteen
That's that.
ducks hate.
What do preteen ducks hate?
Yeah.
That's that hole in the Central Freeway.
Voice
Look
quacks.
at that shit. That's only like 6 inches thick.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, hold on a second. Say that again.
What a preteen ducks hate.
What?
Voice quacks.
Mm.
When its voice quacks.
When his voice
Voice
quacks.
Yeah.
Hey, so, hey, Colin.
Yeah.
What do you call a chicken that has lettuce and tomato in its eye?
When was that? What time frame
I've
was
heard
that?
this one, but what?
The Central Freeway.
Hold on.
It was today.
That was tonight.
It's like what time?
I don't know.
Well, I went down through
by the way, look at that.
Central Freeway.
I heard. Yeah. All right, so what do you call a chicken with lettuce and tomato in its eye? Chicken Caesar salad. All right, bud. I will call you tomorrow, okay?
Wow.
Okay.
All right, love you.
I guess they're
Love you.
trying to
Bye.
fix it right
Later.
now.
Yeah, they got to do something.
Yeah.
I mean, otherwise they're going to reroute all the traffic down Broad, down
Okay.
past the Boys and Girls Club, and all that back up onto to the on ramp on the other side,
So
past it,
this
by the health department.
this episode of, or this segment of Colin Tells a Joke is brought to you by My Genetic Code. You're welcome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll take it.
Anyway, then we went drinking.
Uh-huh.
All right, we go down to this club called Latitude 13, which was very appropriate since a Guam set on Latitude 13.
Okay.
And we walk in there, and then they over in the corner, and you got a little pool table area, and we got a little 6-foot table in there. And we got most of the local guys from the bases there, shooting pool, partners. Go in there and put our quarter on the table, get to it, and me and my partner were sharks. And we get the table, and we held the table until they closed. And we did this every night.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's like his duty day was the day before mine. So we had 4 days in a row where we'd do this. And I'd take his duty day and he'd take my duty day to rest up. So we did like 4 days of just pure ass debauchery,
Yeah.
and then 2 days chill out and then hit it again.
Yeah.
So it's like, And I usually did pretty good because I was an E6, and on my duty days, I was the senior guy in my department. So I usually the duty department head because not all the officers were like, yeah, we're gonna go. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean it's like, and the alcohol use. I mean, wasn't just mostly the enlisted guys. There was some pretty hardcore drinking officers too. I mean, we were sitting in Japan one night, and I watched the chaplain walk aboard shit-faced. I'm petty officer watch. He comes back. I mean, it's like colder than hell. I'm out there in our pea coats and stuff. He comes staggering. Him and the XO come staggering back. The XO, he gets up, salutes. He's like, "I'm just come aboard this shithole." Hey, what's up, Padre? Come on. Yeah. So, but even that, and it's like sitting in Japan one night. A buddy of mine who was one of the other chiefs. I was a chief by then, and we get out there and we're going to Japan. We're sitting at the club, or at one little bars out in town, and he and I are the only patrons in this place. Well, here comes the XO, comes walking in, and we're like, we hated this guy.
And XO is a
The executive officer.
executive officer. Okay.
No, it wasn't my last ship. It was my third ship. I was still in E6, and this guy was a senior chief. Anyway. And because we were stationed in Pearl there. So we're sitting in there drinking, trying to watch sports on the TV in Japanese. no English subtitles. We're sitting there trying to figure out what's going on just by what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
XO walks in and asks the bartender if he could use the phone. The guy takes the phone over to him. XO makes a call. About 5 minutes later, goddamn, fucking about a fucking platoon of goddamn shore patrol and military police come boiling through the door. The owner's like, "What?" And the guy's like, "We got a report of a fight in this bar." And he's like, "These guys have been here for an hour. This guy just walked in." And he's like, "Well, we got a call from here. Did somebody make a call from here?" And the XO turns around and he goes, "I did." "You reported a fight in this bar?" "Yeah." He says, "Why?" He says, "I want to see how fast you can get here." The guy, the senior guy in the team that boiled through the door was a lieutenant.
Mm-hmm.
Now the XO was a lieutenant commander. All right, same as a major.
Yeah.
Okay. He says, "Sir, I'm apprehending you," and he arrested his ass right there. Took him back to the ship. Well, no, he just detained him. Took him back to the ship because in the Navy you can't. You can only be arrested by a officer of equal rank. Okay, so he took him back to the ship. Now the ops boss, the operations officer, was the same rank. He was the third senior man on the ship. We're like, looked at the senior chief and I said, "We gotta watch this shit." So we in the fucking cab, we followed him back, and we pulled up. We just standing on the pier watching. This lieutenant goes over on the ship, gets the ops boss, because he was the command duty officer that day, brings him out, and places the XO under arrest. Takes him back, he escorts him onto the ship, and confines him to his quarters. Posts a guard outside his door, and says he doesn't come out unless he has to go to the head, and that's it. And he surely shouldn't have to do that because he's got a fucking head in his stateroom.
Yeah.
So, anyway, the old man comes in the next morning because he'd been out some social function that night. So he stayed on the beach that night.
Mm-hmm.
He comes back next day. The CO's a full commander. And we're just like, okay, yeah, this is going to be good. So we're all just kind of hanging out where we can get earshot on what's going on. And we see the CO come down, and he goes into the XO stateroom, and you could hear him ripping his ass apart in there. I mean, it's like, holy shit. I had boot camp instructors that didn't talk to anybody like that. And it's like, oh my God. And the XO was in hack for the rest of the deployment.
What's hack?
He was confined to his quarters.
Oh, okay.
He could only come out for official duties and meals,
Oh, wow.
and then had to go back to his quarters and sit there, stay in his stateroom.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow. And then when we got back to the States, back to Hawaii, they left the ship together and went straight over to the squadron commander's office.
Uh-huh.
Squadron commander was a captain, like a full bird.
Mm-hmm.
And they came back, the XO packed his shit and left. He had been relieved
Oh, fuck.
for conduct
I'm
unbecoming.
becoming an officer, yeah.
And we're like, yeah, that was pretty goddamn good. Because the old man the old man we had then was a Mustang. He come up to the enlisted ranks.
Mm.
He went from E1 to 06. Or
Yeah,
to
okay.
05.
Yeah.
Okay. The XO was an academy grad.
Oh
Oh,
shit.
so there was some enjoyment on that
Oh
one.
yeah.
I'll
Man,
bet he
he
did.
enjoyed that. And then we got another. Then the next seal we got was a guy named Finch, and he was a. He went through ROTC, but we got him straight from public relations at the Pentagon. So this guy was like, "Oh my God, we're screwed." But he turned out to be a pretty cool guy.
Yeah. I think what was it? I've only had like one bad incursion with an officer. Well, two bad incursions with an officer. One, I should have just called her. And two, it was a Marine Major, and I had to have him talk to my commander because he was being, in my opinion, being Air Force. I was told to get all the hammocks, or not hammocks, but what are those ones with canvas on them?
What, hang between trees?
No, not a hammock, but a cot. Okay, I had to verify unserviceable cots to serviceable cots.
I never slept on a cot once.
Really?
No, wait, I did at JRTC. That was the only time.
Really? Mm-hmm. I said a
You
cot.
guys carry on. I have to go make a hit.
Okay, yeah. But I think I told this story a couple of times. But the only time frame I've ever had any kind of problem with an officer was because
Programming note. We're coming up on 2 hours.
Are we really?
Yeah. So
That's fine.
you just want to.
we can call it.
Yeah, you just want to. Yeah, just take your time because we're gonna call it.
Yeah, we're gonna call it and put
We'll
it
have
up.
you back on because.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's.
I still gotta get my dad on.
Well,
it.
I'll tell you what, guys, I enjoyed this.
Yeah,
This was cool.
Yeah.
Now, we want to do this again. I might have to pull up and remember some of my saltier crap that I used to do when I was a little more senior.
Just wait until we're past the 5-minute mark, and then your gun's hot.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Thank you for listening on this What the Hell episode. I don't even know what I'm going to call this one. Last one was Father Talk. I'll just call it Sea Stories.
I just call it surf and turf stories.
Yeah, Surf and Turf.
Yeah, there you go, Surf
Yeah,
and Turf.
okay. Well, I'm David Dickerman.
I'm Johnny Skelton.
Thank you for listening and watching, people.
We'll catch you on the flip side, people. Stay classy.
Boom.
Oh,